Everybody complains when there's a dozen sequels in the same series, like Fast and Furious. Everybody complains when they make reboots and remakes, especially when they change the characters all female and they're like, "You can't do that." Everybody complains when some random IP gets a movie like Battleship. You remember that? You remember Battleship? They made a movie on Battleship, the board game. Liam Neeson was in that. Do you remember that? That was a thing. I used to complain a lot, too, about stuff like that. But I've had a gradual epiphany over like the past 5 or 6 years. And it's simply that, who cares? You can make a movie about Peeps, or another drama involving love affair, or self-discovery, or Han Solo. I really like the Solo movie, by the way. They really are going to make a movie about Peeps. There's only one question that matters. Is it a good movie? Are remakes, reboots, and sequels bad? No, of course not. There's nothing inherently evil about making those things. You see, I think that when we complain about movies this way, before we see them or we refuse to see them, we're saying something about imagination. We're saying, you can't do this. You can only do this. And I think that's really wrong. That is, in a way, limiting imagination. Now, I know that there are exceptions, obviously. I know it's really difficult to say, oh, maybe this Transformers movie is going to be different. You can be like 90% sure it's going to be the same as the last one. But there are other instances where it could be different. You don't know. Sometimes I wonder how people would receive a remake if they had no idea that it was a remake. Like Total Recall. When you say things like, oh, it wasn't as good as the original, you're not actually saying anything about the movie itself. You're just saying you enjoyed the original source material. It would be difficult to detach yourself from that experience of seeing the original source material. The only way you would really know if you liked the remake is if you had your memory erased and watched a remake having no idea what it was about. Let me tell you about the Ship of Theseus. The Ship of Theseus is a thought experiment. The Greek hero Theseus goes off sailing on these dangerous adventures, and during these dangerous adventures his ship gets damaged and repaired with new wood. By the time he returns home, his entire ship is replaced with new wood. None of the old wood is there anymore. Can you still call it the Ship of Theseus? Elementary is a Sherlock Holmes adaptation on CBS. It has some noticeable differences from the original source material. Sherlock Holmes operates in Manhattan, Watson is an Asian woman, and Moriarty is a woman. Can you still call that Sherlock Holmes? How many people would not call it Sherlock Holmes? Does it really matter? What makes Sherlock Holmes Sherlock Holmes? How much of Sherlock Holmes can you strip away and still call it Sherlock Holmes? The movie Zero Effect with Bill Pullman and Ben Stiller is a loose adaptation of Sherlock Holmes, and yet none of the characters share any names in any of the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stories. The movie is at the basis an adaptation of the Sherlock Holmes story A Scandal in Bohemia, and the nature of Bill Pullman's character, Darryl Zero, is like Sherlock Holmes somewhat. A Bug's Life, everyone loves A Bug's Life, is at the basis level an adaptation of Seven Samurai, and also it has a little bit of Three Amigos in there. But mostly it's Seven Samurai because it's about a town that's being terrorized by bullies or bandits, and they send someone out to find warriors to fight back these bullies or bandits. That's Seven Samurai. The thing about Seven Samurai is that it became such a monumental movie that its plot became like a fairy tale that's embedded into across all sorts of media. And it's so ubiquitous, it's so legendary that you can just make a movie that has that skeletal structure of Seven Samurai without even saying, oh, this is a reimagining of Seven Samurai. Before the golden age of ancient Greece, the Greeks visited Egypt and they looked at their statues and said, hey, let's make statues like those. So they made these statues and eventually over the years made these other statues that we all know and love. This is what art is. There's nothing bad about it, that's just how it works. You take old art and you make new art out of it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and review every remake and reboot and sequel and whatever. I'm just here to tell you that it doesn't matter what you make a movie about. You can make a movie about anything. The only important question is it a good movie? So when people say things like, oh, you can't remake the Terminator for like the 100th time, or I'm not gonna watch the new Ghostbusters movie because it's a bad idea to remake the original, they have one of these up their asses.